Harry Hayward arrived at Wayne State University 1975, 1976. I was running the Black Studies Department at Wayne State University. I knew of him. Not everything about him, but I knew that he was just an outstanding African American who had traveled widely, had been involved in just about every political episode in the nation's history. So when we had an opportunity to come together, and I was running courses then at Wayne State University, and I knew of his background. I said, Harry, you got to come in and talk to my students. And he very willingly did that. And when he came to my classroom, here's someone who has studied in Moscow, had went to the revolutionary, the University of the Toilers, as they called it back in those days, have been totally indoctrinated, in the whole communist outlook, and the zeal and spirit of that. And someone who had traveled all over. In the 1930s, he fought, in Spain, during that whole war there against fascism. So he had that kind of background. I say he would be perfect, to share his knowledge and information, his travels with my students. He came to the classroom. I brought him in twice because he was so good the first time I had to bring him back again. And the first time he came in, he began to talk about the Tulsa Riot of 1921. Now I had read about a lot of that, but to hear it coming out, this black man's mouth at that time, and speaking with such authority, and vividly recounting. In fact, the first time I heard, and the young person returns, and the first time I heard anything about Tulsa being bombed came out of the mouth, of Harry Hayward. And that immediately caught my attention. At the same time, he had that kind of personality and emotional and intimacy that he could talk about things that he could bring you right into it. And we all, the students, I had about 50, 75 students back then, and we were all just swinging right along with him as he recounted, blow by blow, detail by detail, bullet by bullet, that occurred, in that particular incident. And he called it May 31st, June the 1st, 1921. He gave us a vivid account of that, so much so that, he was left with the impression that he was actually there. I didn't pay that much attention to it at that point. You go with the sway, with the feeling, and the kind of emotionality, the authenticity that he brought to that moment, and you let it rest there. It was only later on, after his memoir, after his autobiography came out, called The Black Bolshevik, and I recommend that. And it's a thorough accounting of a black man's experience within the Communist Party. None better. None better. There's some others who could probably do it better, but they haven't written their books. Harry has written his. And then you have the kind of turmoil, the topsy-turvy, the kind of ideological shift, the philosophical changes that went down during the lifetime experience he had in the Communist Party. Well, I was enthralled and enraptured, and when he started working on his autobiography, I was right there with him. There was another young man right there with me at that time who I had brought to Wayne State University. He taught for many years up at the University of Amherst at Massachusetts, Ernie Ellen. He's now emeritus. But Ernie spent a whole lot of time working with Harry on his autobiography. I was only in there occasionally because I had other things to do at the campus. But whenever I had a chance to look at that manuscript, I knew it was something that's going to be a very valuable document in terms of understanding that relationship, that experience between an African American and the Communist Party. So when Harry left Detroit and went to Chicago and hooked up with the October League, and he completed that book, I had a chance to see exactly some of the early chapters that I had seen. I saw it now under one cover. So it's Harry Hayward. We'll get back to him in a second, because we're talking about, whether he in fact was an eyewitness, to the explosion, the whole riot that occurred in 1921.